Officer death is definitely a punch in the gut. It's heart-wrenching for everyone. It's heart-wrenching. I can't even describe the grief.
Alexandria has had 18 officers die in the line of duty. It's more than most agencies in the state of Virginia. My name's Ginny and I was married to Corporal Charlie Hill, who was an officer with the Alexandria Police Department for 13 years. He died in the line of duty in March of 1989. It has been 25 years. My boys at the time were 3 and 7, and it was a really difficult time.
I'm living proof of how the ultimate can happen. I was 12 years old when my father had been a police officer for 17 years. And he went to work one day and didn't come home.
I never really thought that I was a strong person. I always depended on him. But after that, I became my own person.
I just felt that they don't really die if you still remember them and you still share those memories so that somebody else can remember it.
He's out going for a jog, and all of a sudden in comes an officer on a foot pursuit, and he's just out in his jog, and he just takes off and chases down this guy and, tackles this guy while he's on his jog, and as soon as it's all, done, okay, let's see it, he goes back out his jog.
Yeah, he was a great dad. He really loved his boys. So I just want something for them to know that he has not been forgotten.
My father was Detective Conrad Lee Burney. He died December 27th, 1972. Dad was a youth detective, and he dealt with just children. He loved doing what he did. His car would pull up, and all the kids in the projects would come running up to talk to him. I was Daddy's little girl. I always idolized him. My mom and Dad had been married for 13 years. If she talks about him, she has a hard time talking about him.
The important thing about knowing who a police officer is he or she is just an average person. These people, were people just like we were. We obviously have to make a living and support our families.
They have normal problems just like everybody else.
I'm your next door neighbor. I'm mowing the lawn. I'm going to PTA meetings. I'm taking my kids to the doctor with my wife. We're just people like everybody else.
There are people out there that want to further this cause.
I can think of nothing more important or more emotional or more timeless than the purpose, meaning, and message that this beautiful memorial represents.
It was decided that the memorial will basically be built by private citizens. Fortunately, we have a police foundation, and those good people took up the mantle to say, we'll be the fundraising arm to raise the money for the memorial.
We had 300 and some people give money, individuals and businesses. So it's really a community outpouring.
The city of Alexandria is now a good, safe place to live.
And the quality of life in Alexandria for visitors, for businesses, and for residents is great.
It didn't get that way overnight.
Even Old Town Alexandria, the Dead End of King, was not a place to go like it is now. That was the hard part of town.
It took a long time to get it that way. A big part of that were police officers. Some officers paid with their lives. 2 of them were friends of mine that were shot down right in front of me. They went to work that night, not looking for a fight. The people that they encountered had a choice to make. They could either cooperate with the officers or fight. They chose to fight.
I've seen firsthand the tragedy of an officer being killed in the line of duty.
I still remember the expression on my mother's face, it's still a very big hole in her heart.
The tragedy to the community, to the department, to the families, friends.
It doesn't just end one life, it ends everybody's related to him that knows him in some way or shape or form. You learn to live with it in your own way. We're not survivors because we haven't gone through to the other end. There is no other end.
Remember that entire night, actually.
That was a SWAT call for a hostage situation.
The subject, Jamie Wise, came up to the door at 416 Hopkins Court in Alexandria, and he was essentially hired by a drug dealer to perform a hit. He came inside the residence, took several of them hostage,
I was the commander of the special operations team.
performed drugs while on the hostage situation just inside the house, because it was a drug dealing house.
I remember the negotiators were telling me that they wanted to go face to face with this guy. No protection, just talk to him one-on-one. And I said, it's not going to happen.
At some point, my dad is partnered with Andy Lahowski. The two of them together were moving around the back of the house.
The hostage taker came out of the building with his hostage in front of him.
He had, by this point, let everybody go but the one hostage. He comes out the back door with the hostage and the shotgun to the back of the hostage's head.
Charlie was trying to talk to the guy to tell him to just give up and that we weren't going to hurt him.
At some point, he told them to put their weapons down or he was going to kill the hostage. They did so. They both put their weapons down on the ground. And there's other people yelling at him. There's a sniper.
I gave the order for the sniper to take the shot.
And he fired, and it was a kill shot.
I heard two shots. I saw the hostage taker. I saw his shirt puff out like this, and he started to go down. My thought was, this is over.
There was confusion.
The hostage ran.
Essentially dead after that first shot, but unfortunately he was very high, extremely high. It didn't communicate to the rest of his body that he was dead.
The bad guy stood up and fired a shot.
Twice.
I didn't know he hit anything or anybody until afterwards.
One of those rounds struck our dad in the head.
I do very clearly remember the moment when they reported officer down.
That's when I discovered it was Charlie.
That stopped you because the first thing you start thinking is disbelief. You're also thinking they'll survive it. Somehow you'll survive it.
Downstairs in the basement, watching TV, the doorbell rang.
It was my responsibility to go to her house.
I know Mom went up to answer the door.
Ginny didn't know we were coming, but when she saw me, she knew what it was.
And then when you get word that that's not going to happen because you hear the nature of the injury and your training and your education and just your understanding that that's not going to happen.
Just a couple of seconds later, all we hear is her yelling.
I drove her to the hospital, and it was a long ride.
Halhowski physically healed, but unfortunately, I don't think he psychologically healed. Eventually died from, I think, that event.
How many people for so little pay would die for a stranger?
It was very tough for the team. We'd never lost anybody before. And I pulled the team together and I told them, we're the last line of defense. When they call us, we still have to go.
Our jobs never stop regardless of what's happening.
And the next call out, we got to be ready. You know, we'll take our time and we'll grieve, but we still have a job to do. That's an important job.
You can't get to know people and work with them and be partners with them and to suddenly know that in a very violent way, because of this job, they're no longer here. You can't know Ginny, the kids at the time, and see that, and that absolutely wonder about a lot of things in life. What's right, what's wrong. The world's turned upside down for a moment.
We all reflect on our own mortality.
We took it as one of the hazards of the job, and we certainly grieved.
It brings home the very thing that you don't think about.
It just absolutely takes you to a personal place.
We all go to work, we do our jobs, we don't think about these things might happen to us. You really don't, you don't think about it until something like this happens.
That incident can never be wiped away.
And then you go through your shift, it's in the back of your mind where it wasn't before.
It's part of your career, your life, and what happened to him and his family.
But there's a tendency for things to fade, memories to fade, things to be kind of taken for granted. This doesn't allow that. It sends a message to officers who will pass by it every day that everything they do on the street reflects on the honor of those who went before them.
All of these officers, they are all special that way. Because they've given that sacrifice, and they were willing to.
I think when you come here, you'll finally get that relief that finally we're paying due respect to the fallen officers of this city.
We're paying homage to people who don't ever ask to have this tribute to them. They do this every day because they enjoy what they do. And it's not just the fallen officers, but it's really a tribute to the entire police department, and not just in Alexandria, but everywhere.
This is a memorial that somewhat lives on, so it doesn't necessarily commemorate a period in time. At some point, there may be other officers that join that wall of reflection.
We're trying to represent something that's ongoing. It's the idea of kind of a finished, unfinished memorial.
But it's also, I think, sending a message from the community that the dangerous work that police officers do on a day-to-day basis is not forgotten.
They continue to do their business, and they continue to put their lives at risk each day.
I was a police officer for 11 years.
I'm a police officer in Alexandria City Police Department.
There's a certain amount of courage to go where others are not going to remain.
You know, there are definitely some scary times.
You just got to know that I will take the risk for other people.
Be able to remember, safety and try to make sure that you go home safe, because I don't want my name added to that wall.
Everything has a meaning to it, from the size of the stones that we use to the pavers.
There's no prescribed journey through the memorial. Each visitor will get something different out of it as they take that journey.
Everything has a specific meaning, and it's all rooted into the fallen officers.
We've really tried to emphasize the importance of each individual decision. It's not your typical statue. It's much more symbolic, I feel.
It's going to be a great piece of architecture. It's going to be a great experience.
A real life place to reflect and pray and meditate and think about their lives together.
People can pause and look at and say, gee whiz, these are people that really did serve the community.
It's an expression of respect and hopefully hope.
It memorializes for all time the heroism, courage, gallantry, and immeasurable personal sacrifice of 18 Alexandria police officers who gave their lives in the performance of duty, who gave their lives in service to others. And it stands in honor to the families and loved ones who suffered immeasurable loss.
Unfortunately, these officers lost their lives just trying to be of service to the community, trying to protect those who can't protect themselves. That's what we're there for.
I think they would absolutely be smiling that a memorial is built, and not necessarily for them. They'd be smiling because thank you. It's a thank you to everybody that has been before them.
There's, I'm sure, many family members from the past who have never had any current recognition, and they'll be able to see their family members and know what happened.
Those surviving families who lost their loved ones, whether they were in the womb or they were completely grown, and never had the advantage of living a life with their loved one because they lost it for the city of Alexandria. Their loved ones weren't forgotten. They put their life on the line for this city. We recognize that. And there's a permanent memorial to that sacrifice.
I would think both of them, because I knew them so well, both would say the same thing, hey, I'm just doing my job. And that's what I say, we're just doing our jobs.